Quazi here. In the early days of quantum physics, scientists discovered something that broke all the rules of how we thought reality worked. They were studying tiny particles, electrons and photons, expecting them to behave like little solid balls, but what they found was shocking. These particles existed as waves of probability until someone observed them. The very act of observation collapsed the wave into a particle, changing the outcome. In other words, reality literally shifted based on whether or not someone was watching. Now, what very few actually accept is that this extends beyond the scope of a lab setting to the rest of reality itself. The rest of reality behaves very, very similarly. Think about this. How many times have you thought of someone and suddenly they text you out of nowhere? Or you walk into a room and feel the energy shift without a single word being said? It's as though your awareness bends the field around you, pulling certain outcomes into form. Just like those quantum particles, reality waits in a cloud of possibilities until the observer steps in. This is what's known as the quantum law. Now, the issue is most people don't know how to consciously use this law to shape their own destiny. Now, after 8 years of my own research and actually applying this for myself, here's what I realized. In order to use the quantum law to create your own destiny, you must first become the observer and then choose your thoughts, and then reality will follow. Obviously, that's an oversimplified description, so throughout this video, I'm going to share with you why this law works, and I'm also going to give you a 4-step exercise that shows you exactly how to apply this law into your own life, so you can watch your reality bend just like those particles in a lab. So with that, let's get started. So at a high level, how this quantum law works, I'd like to demonstrate it to you with a personal example from my life. So back in 2019, I was stuck in 2 different possible life paths. I could either go the 9-to-5 route upon graduating university. You know, I had a really good degree from a really awesome college. I was good at school. You know, I was, by societal standards, quite successful. You know, I graduated magna cum laude from Boston University in mechanical engineering. I had like a 3.7 or 3.8 GPA. I had a job lined up for me. You know, they were like, it was paying really well for back in 2019. It was like 50K a year or 60K a year, something like that, with health benefits, everything, proper W-2 wages, salary. So it was a multi-billion-dollar company, but I did a summer internship prior, and every single day that I would go in, I would be depressed because, you know, you were working from the hours of 7 to 3, and if you were in New York City, during the winters, 7 to 3 literally are your daylight hours. So, you know, for around 6 months of the year, you would see no sunlight Monday through Friday. And then sometimes you'd have to go in on Saturday, right? So I was going into this workplace, waking up at 5 a.m. and I did the summer internship, and I noticed that the people who were working there, they were also so miserable, so depressed. They were trying to stick their arms into the machines. There were heavy machinery equipment operating in that plant, and safety was a big concern. So they had to really, really make sure that everyone was safe and wearing protective gear. But you'd be surrounded by chemicals, and it was just terrible. They were trying to stick their arms into the machines to get workers' comp, and a couple of the guys were successful, and they never had to work again because they were getting workers' comp. So you can imagine someone who's fresh, a young kid, fresh, just out of college, with a lot of excitement and zest for life, did not want to go that path, right? So what I did want instead was to do what my friends at the time were doing, which was running an online business, living the laptop lifestyle, having freedom, right? Time freedom was the number one thing to me. I didn't care about making too much money. I just wanted to make what I determined at the time was 20K a month to live the life that I wanted to live and just have a very, very simple life, right? Where I could just travel and have my free time. My time is the most important thing for me. So at that time, I was juggling between 2 different lifelines. So at that time, I read a book called Transurfing, Reality Transurfing. In that book, there's mention of this concept called alternative space. Okay, the alternative space. In ancient Hermetic teaching, they call this the all. Okay, and there's a principle that says there's nothing to be worried about because everything is within the all. Okay, so the all, in Islam, it's Allah. It's God, everything that can possibly be conceived of can be manifested. It's already, the creation process is done. It's just a matter of you attuning yourself in terms of the frequency of your thought energy to that particular lifeline that you want to experience. So for me, I was in between these two lifelines, this one lifeline where I do become successful with my online business, and the other lifeline where I'm forced to be miserable with all these unhappy faces, going to that job, working for the next 45 years, and then retiring with my soul completely destroyed and just not enjoying, not happy about the life path that I chose, just having lived in regret and wondering what if, right? And I knew at the time that making this decision, the transition between one lifeline to the next, would be an uncomfortable decision, because I had known this my whole life. That is my comfort zone, right? Because my parents taught me, they were immigrants, they taught me like, oh, okay, just get a secure job, you know, that's what we want for you. We'll pay for your college and everything, and then you get a great job, and then you make enough money, and then you be safe. Like, we can brag about you to our friends, right? But I didn't want that. That wasn't my heart's calling. What my heart's calling was to make these videos, change people's lives, share my knowledge with the world, and have time freedom. So, and also in the process, hopefully making more than enough money to live on, to experience the wealth and abundance of life. So now, when you make a shift from one lifeline to the next, this is very, very crucial. I want you to pay close attention. You will be encountered with tests and challenges. Anyone who tells you otherwise does not understand the nature of how reality operates. Why? Because this used to be my comfort zone. If I'm operating within the confines of my comfort zone, by very definition, I will be comfortable. I will not experience challenge, right? But then when I make the shift to something that's uncomfortable, it is going to be very, very testing at first, right? So when I made the decision and I told my employer, hey, I wouldn't be joining, I was met with a lot of resistance. My parents did not approve of it. I had to move back home, and I was working on this business from home, and the month of May 2019, the month that I was supposed to make the most amount of money to prove to my parents that this was a viable career path, life path, because they couldn't understand what I was doing on my laptop when I was, making videos and trying to make sales and make money online. They didn't understand the nature of this world. So they were like, what the heck are you doing? My dad was like anxious. He was like, my son has gone completely crazy, right? So, they didn't believe that I could do it, which I don't blame them, right? I didn't believe I could do it. I just put one foot in front of the other. So that's what happens when you make a shift to a different lifeline. There has to be uncertainty. There has to be doubt. The greatest things in life actually come when you have this uncertainty and doubt. Why? Because when you live in this state of uncertainty, you have access to possibility. Meaning, you're living in that wave-like probability state. Nothing has materialized yet. But the moment you are ready to receive, it will materialize. So when you live in uncertainty, when you live in doubt, when you actually have doubt, that's a sign that you are operating from a place of acceptance, right? One of my oldest mentors, he told me that you should live every single day as though you're living in a dark room. If you want to be on the path to growth and experience the most wonderful things life has to offer, the ego is looking for certainty and security and safety, right? Ironically, it's when you become comfortable in the discomfort, that's when you find comfort, security, and safety. Because then it doesn't matter what's happening out there. You know God is going to take care of you. You know the universe is taking care of you, right? Even though you see temporary setbacks, you know that for some reason, somehow they had to happen for you to learn the lesson that you needed to learn and for the necessary changes to happen. For how are you supposed to know that that unfortunate incident, the bill that came, it wasn't supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to lead you to something much greater, right? I'm sure you can think of your life right now and all of the greatest things that you've accomplished. Typically, there was a time, a period of hardship just prior to it, right? The darkness before the dawn, okay? So that's something that you must go through. And the only thing that determines whether you're going to come out of it on the other side with success or not is your attitude through it. Are you going to be accepting of it and ease into it, or are you going to continually resist God's will at every single turn? There's a great book on this called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. He basically surrendered himself from a hut where he was living to becoming a nine-figure business owner. Like he surrendered his way to owning a $100 million software business and then selling it to IBM, I believe. So it's an interesting read. If you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. But just living in this state of surrender and not knowing what's going to come tomorrow or next week has been one of the most valuable ways for me to live, because I'm the kind of person who is very logical and is reliant on ego. Like, hey, this has to make sense, that has to make sense. And so I'm looking for certainty. But when you let go of the need for certainty, that's when the greatest things in your life actually come. That's when certainty actually comes, right? That's the dichotomy of your life. Whatever you need, you will resist. Whatever you fully give up, you will attract. That's why you probably noticed that if you want to attract someone into your life, or if you want to close a big business deal, typically when you stop being needy and pushing for the sale, or stop being needy with the partner and trying to text them incessantly, that's when they proactively reach out to you and they're like, oh, what the heck? This person doesn't need anything from me. Why I'm suddenly so much more attracted to them. That's also how reality works. The less you need the outcome, the less I needed this to work, the more it started to work. So the month of May 2019, the month I graduated, was the worst month because I needed to make $5K a month the most to prove to my parents. But at the end of that month, my worst fear had come to life. I had quickly come to the acceptance of the possibility that, hey, this may not work and I might have to go back to my job. And that's okay, okay? That's okay. At least I gave it a shot. Guess what happened the following month? I had my first $5,000 or $8,000 month. The following month after that was a $12K month. And then the month of August 2019 was my first $22K, $23,000 month. That's the goal I'd set a year prior, 13 months prior in July of 2018. Okay? And it manifested 13 months later. And then after that, I started doing $100,000 a month, which was beyond my wildest dreams, right? That's not what I aimed for. It happened because I surrendered, okay? So I want to share with you, enough of talking about me, I want to share with you what actually makes the shift happen. Because in this alternative space, there are many different possible sectors of reality, versions of reality that you can experience. So right now in your life, whatever you're experiencing, there is a particular script that's playing, okay? If you imagine this to be a play, a game, there is a particular script at play, right? This is the script. You wake up, you go to this job, or you work on your business, and you've dictated that you'd be stuck at this plateau, right? You are making a certain amount of income, you're experiencing a certain quality of life. You know, I was speaking to a client last week and he was like, I always have just enough, never more than enough. Well, that's the script that's playing. You never have more than enough. That's your identity. Whatever your internal reality is, that's what will be reflected externally, right? So that's what's happening. So right now, you have a script that's running because you've accepted the script. The very first thing we must do is unattach from the script. Okay, so here is the exercise that I want to share with you. Step one is you will realize that there is a predetermined script, a script that's playing that you have innocently accepted when you were a kid. Okay, because there was nothing else to accept. That's it. Your parents gave it to you and you simply accepted it. So what you want to do is you want to unattach from this current script. And you do that simply by asking yourself three simple questions. Who am I? Where am I? And what am I doing? And you realize what's happening. You can see yourself and you can see reality. Especially in those moments where you get sucked into the script, where something, maybe you're bickering with your spouse, maybe you're fighting with your employer, or you're resisting something. In those moments of resistance, you wake up and you watch what's happening. You refuse to give your energy away. How many times have you given your energy away and then afterwards you were like, why did I black out? Why did that happen? Right? You simply wake up and you acknowledge what's happening. If you can do that, if you can simply wake up in those moments, you'll begin to control your reality. I can promise you that. Like your life will just change because your response will now be conscious as opposed to unconsciously reacting. Okay? So, the next thing you want to do is once your attention is centered, this is what I do. I visualize for 30 seconds. I visualize the script that I would like to run instead. Okay, so instead of resisting current reality, I am focusing on what I would like to experience in the next moment. So for example, you may have this attention centering exercise happen every hour or so. Like every hour or so, you're centering your attention. And then every hour that you center your attention, now you close your eyes and you visualize the reality you want to move towards. I would visualize waking up in my mansion in LA next to the partner of my dreams and making the kind of money that I want, experiencing the life that I want. I'm filling the details in with what I know as opposed to focusing on what I don't know. Initially, when I started this, when I was in that job, when I was in college, I didn't even know that I was going to make a YouTube channel, right? I had no idea. And I had no idea how I would monetize my services. So I didn't focus on the unknown. I just focused on what I did know, the life that I do want to experience, that life of freedom, right? So if you don't know certain details, don't worry. Just focus on what you do know. Stop wasting your time focusing on what you don't know. Because the more we focus on what we don't know, the more we kind of put ourselves in that situation of more unnecessary suffering, more unnecessary doubts and fears, right? So when you focus on what you don't know, you get more of what you don't know. When you focus on what you do know, you have this faith, this place of faith that you can simply ease into the discomfort and uncertainty, okay? Faith is trust in the unknown and the unseen. Belief is trust in the known and the seen. If I have faith, then I can be assured that no matter what I'm going through right now, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And hope is what has moved mankind forward, right? Hope is the fundamental quality that is required for you to come out on the other side from whatever it is you're going through right now. You need to have hope. Without hope, there is no forward movement. Okay? So, you want to visualize for 30 seconds, no longer than 30 seconds. Why? Because if you keep visualizing for longer, you start forcing things. You don't want to visualize, you want to vision. There is a difference between forcing a visualization and having visions. So when you close your eyes for 30 seconds and you focus on what you want, you will immediately have visions of your future and the thing that you want to experience. So right before the conscious mind steps in, because I find that after 30 seconds, that's when the conscious mind steps in and starts to manipulate what you want by saying, oh no, this is possible and that's not possible, right? It starts to judge. That's what the conscious mind or the ego does. It's a sharp knife. It cuts through things. So what you want to do is before the conscious mind steps in, you want to intuitively see what is coming up. What is it that I want to experience instead of this current script? And just visualize that. Allow that vision to arise. Okay? Step 3. Assume. Now you want to open your eyes and assume that you have already shifted. Okay? So we're doing these mini shifts. We're course correcting every single hour. Because what happens is wherever your energy, your attention goes, that is the sector of reality that will become materialized, just like quantum physics, right? The wave function will collapse and make that sector of reality manifest. So throughout the day, we're having certain thoughts, certain sentiments, certain attitudes that is manifesting a sector of reality that is different to what we want to experience. Typically, it's the old reality that's manifesting. So if you want to shift out of the old frequency, you have to get into the habit of focusing on the new frequency. And the way you do that is by unattaching from the old and focusing through visioning, what do you want to experience instead? And then staying in that state of assumption that, hey, the shift has already happened. At least for the next hour, the shift has happened. I promise you do this for 30 days, your life is going to change forever. Okay? So, vision for 30 seconds, then assume that the shift has already happened, and you continue to live your life. You just put one foot in front of the other. Okay? Just put one foot in front of the other. You will be directed to that goal, or the processes that will lead to that goal happening. Okay? Number 4. At the end of the day, you want to take inventory of your thoughts. So on a scale of 1 to 10, give yourself a rating. How effective was I at staying as my ideal self? What were the predominant thoughts that I had? Throughout the day, what percentage of the time was I thinking positively? And what percentage of the time do I feel was more reflective of my old life? You have your new life and your old life, okay? That's the way we're going to break it up. And so what percentage of the time did I feed the old life? What percentage of the time did I feed the new life? And then what would I give myself a rating of on a scale of 1 to 10 on how aligned I was to my new self? Okay? That's what you want to do at the end of the day. And you'll begin to notice that when you keep this journal and you take inventory of your thought energy, of your frequency, of what you're thinking and feeling throughout the day, it will inevitably begin to change. The numbers will be more tipped to the scale on the side of your new self. Yes, you will have bad days. Some days will be worse than others. The journey is not linear, but overall, you're going to see there's going to be a trending upwards, and that's when the thing that you want will manifest. Okay? So I hope this was helpful. If you're new to the channel, let me know what you thought of this. If you share this also with a friend, if this was valuable to you, that would really help us, because we're trying to get this message out to as many people as possible and change as many lives as possible. So you sharing with a friend helps a lot more than just a friend finding it themselves. Our mission with this channel is to help every single human being on earth to master their destinies, because I would like for you to experience what I experience on a day-to-day basis, the kind of freedom that I experience on a day-to-day basis. By the way, if you would like to have me as your mentor and work closer together for a whole year to make sure you make a permanent shift in your life, our clients are getting outstanding, life-changing results, as I've shared, and I'll pull them all up here. And I work really, really closely with my clients. So if you'd like to work closer together with me for 12 months to make sure you take your life to the next level, you can click on the link in the description below to schedule a free consultation call with me to see if it'd be a good fit. Otherwise, the video on shadow work is literally right in here, and I'll see you in this next video right now. Thanks.